And we're back. We hope you enjoyed your break and welcome to the VALORANT North American Challengers. It is iCuteNoob along here with Becky, and we are getting ready for map number 2, which is going to be Sunset. And I was specifically looking at the team compositions that Zero Marksman Black was bringing to this map. And I'm just like, wow, these are like theory compositions.
Yeah, I kind of in agreement. They only have 2 times that they've played Sunset. So it's hard to really look into those, at least for the matches that we have record of. And it could be that these are like different team compositions that they picked with different agents at different strengths. Like, it's a lot of work to go in and find all of those little nuances when we were also trying to do research onto every other team that we could potentially commentate for. So we don't have much more to say other than Sunset doesn't seem like a very great pick for Zero Marksman Black, especially also considering that they are their 2 times that they have played it are very different team compositions, so we don't really know what to expect from them. Blinn, on the other side, has played it quite a bit, and I think it is something that they are feeling is maybe not like super comfortable, but they at least are rocking very similar team compositions every single time. They did make a change from a chamber to a Cypher when Cypher got those big buff skis. And I think that this is a place where Blinn, they've got the numbers to back up taking Sunset down. And considering how we saw this team play, CuteNoob said they're warmed up, they're looking great. That's what they have going for them in this series. Zero Marksman Black, hey, maybe that's what they needed to warm up was this last match of Icebox. Maybe this is the awakening that they need. And it really does seem like Zero Marksman are trying to bring a lot of kind of interesting team compositions. We did see this Reyna come through on Icebox, and maybe we're going to see something a little more exciting from them on Sunset too. I do think that they are kind of leaning on those what if factors, whereas Blinn are doing a lot more kind of tried and true things that are a little bit closer to their chest.
Well, looking at these stats, you can kind of see Blinn Esports where they shined. And it's the fact that every one of them had one of those moments where they shined through, especially Okeanos with the Outlaw and the Operator. Kind of just talking in the higher levels of Valorant, I heard that the Outlaw was very situational. I don't know what situation was perfect for Okeanos, but Okeanos made it happen, and that came through. So when you have your Jett feeling themselves hitting every single shot and making sure that they are creating the space or denying the space, that is where Blinn Esports shine through, with the remainder of the team just making sure that they were there helping out and setting the proper place for their team. You talked about Monsi a little bit. The harbor walls, the cascades, the coves, they were good. They were solid even. They allowed for the aggression to come through for Okeanos, and when you're able to set up your duelists like that, it's golden. We see that is where Zero Marksman Black kind of had a little bit of a harder time. Their duelists weren't really on fire, let's be honest. Your duelists were warming up. They were getting ready to get acting on the second half, where we saw Kev shine through. So I think that after this map, I want to see a little bit of a shift of momentum here for Zero Marksman Black. And Sunset, again, it's anyone's map. I feel like it's an interesting map. You kind of said it for us. We are both from LA, so we enjoy this map. We think it's pretty awesome. I think that there's some spots where I'm like, wait, where is that? Why haven't I been there? But for the most part, it's a pretty map, and I'm really excited to see what agents we are getting thrown here. No one really set on any team composition at this point for either team.
Yeah, I so far would expect almost this exact team to come out from Blinn. The only thing that I think is a little different from what we typically see from Blinn is that usually that Viper is something like a Breach. So Zero Marksman Black have actually brought the team composition that Blinn usually run. Like that exact team comp is the safe haven for Blinn. So I do think it's a little odd that in this round of things, they've decided to go for this Viper instead of that Breach that they previously have seemed a little more comfortable with, but I'm excited to see it nonetheless. I do, as I mentioned previously a lot, I like these double controller comps. I like seeing what those bring to the table. I like the pacing that it sets for games, and I like the amount of respect that you need to put onto people who have compositions like that.
So double controller versus double initiator is going to be, and as I expected, the Sky right now isn't a part of that conversation. But neither is the KJ, and we didn't even get to talk about that.
Yeah, we haven't talked about nerfs very much at all.
I'm so sad. I RIP for every KJ main out there, because that
what about the
nerf
Sky
to
mains,
to the turret. Well, I mean, yes, I also feel for your Sky mains out there, but so far no KJs, and I'm happy for that. I think that the meta was so long that we now finally get to see a new strat, and this is going to be the mid strat coming out here for Blinn Esports. They are on the attack for this map specifically, and as you can see, their mid control top notch. They're already on it. They have taken control of both Boba as well as Market, and they are going to create a peanut butter jelly sandwich. Nanners and Tim, though, they're not going to allow for them to be pushed around. They are going to take control of their site and eliminate, making this a 2v2. Kev throwing out those nades, but just as quickly, Blinn's just going for the eliminations. They don't care about the plant. They want the eliminations, and they're going to continue to hunt forth. Blast still has some utility in the back pocket, bringing out the aftershock to make sure that the plant does not come through. But this is a bait here, folks. This is not going to be fully come through. Okay, it's finally going to come through now.
Spike planted.
2 controllers left. I think that's going to make things a little bit rough here for Blast, who's going to have to work on their lonesome. Has a few pieces of utility to work with, but when you can't see through a lot of these areas, and also we're a single player peeking into 2, it's a little bit rough. Going to try and check as many of these corners as possible, but that ticking is going fast, and with a little bit of a high-low action, it is going to be that first round going the way of Blinn Esports. Not a ton to read into going into this round. Like, I'm already like kind of stunned by the fact that Monsi is on this Viper. Again, it's very different from a lot of the previous team compositions that Blinn have run. And so I'm interested to see how that shakes up. But in just a pistol round, it's really hard to tell how that Viper is going to impact this whole game. But it is something that I will be watching very closely as we continue through this match.
Yeah, that mid rush was so intense. A little bit of util set forth on this A site. They also committed the Viper's wall, but that's the beautiful thing about having a double controller, which is the idea that it's okay. You can use some piece of util to bait out your opponent into thinking that you're going into a site, or potentially just be like, okay, I'm going to condition you to believe that we're always going to hit this site, and then re-hit it as they are now. You could see the gamble stack from Zero Marksman is not going to be beneficial, at least for this time being. The Lear does some wonders here for Tim, who's like, okay, I'm going to back up a little bit. Oh, I'm sorry. Tim is on the opposite here. They're on the attack. It's actually Monsi who's going to back it up a bit here. Wait for the team rotation, call out, and the quick rotation here for Zero Marksman Black comes just as quickly. The pushback from the grenade actually forces for the defenders to push on through the site, and Kev, finding comfort in the cover, peeks out into the hands of Monsi.
30 seconds left.
It is just down left. 2 nanners, classic in hand, a hope and a dream. Can it come through? Can they find the 1v1s? Nope, that's not going to be the case.
That's a hard place to try and find a 1v1s, and that classic. At that point, you're just happy to take as much weaponry out of the hands of as many people as possible. And not a lot was taken out there, but enough to at least put Mikey on the back foot with a Sheriff here on the side of Zero Marksman Black. Full loadouts. Interested to see. We've seen 2 very different pushing strategies come through from Blinn so far. And you were kind of talking about conditioning earlier, and it does start as soon as those pistol rounds. And now we're going to see a little bit of a split. So continuing to just keep Zero Marksman guessing and changing it up as much as possible on each of these rounds.
There was a quick Cypher cage used onto this A main site, and that really helped for Zero Marksman to be a little bit more aggressive as well, but they didn't quite commit to that. Instead, they are finding that this mid push is becoming a little bit too complex for them. They hear a lot of noise, so we're gonna have Tim holding on to that with the crossfire here from Kevin. They will be rewarded once the smoke dissipates, but can they hit the shots? And it's gonna be a 2 for 2, a tat for tat. A blind coming through. Mike trying to see if they can get some sort of information as well themselves. And they are indeed. The spike now making their way into this B market. But Monsi hasn't created a lot of space onto the site. They are getting zoned out by Nanners with full utility. There is the trip giving away the location. And Nanners, you just sit back, relax, let your trips and your cages give you all the information you need.
That's one buff Cypher. I feel like the best part about Cypher getting buffed is just seeing all the fun tripwires that you can make happen. And I thought that was going to go kind of poorly for Nanners for a second when Nanners made that little peek out, got one of those tripwires taken out just kind of by a little bit of spray fire coming from Monsi. But everything else just ended up coming up Nanners there. Zero Marksman Black are going to be able to hold on strong weaponry going into this next one, and even playing field as we go into round number 4 here.
Every single round, like you mentioned, has been some new take, but still there is that consistent pressure in mid that leaves Zero Marksman having to restructure where they're at. They either rotate someone off A or rotate someone off B. The last so far handling things immaculately, able to stay alive with 41 health in a dream, and able to kind of lean towards this B site where we could see that the spike gets making his way. There's going to be a little bit of dark cover happening for Boba T. A blind already lined up, so the player on site cannot see anything. But still, as we know, Nanners is on this B site. The trips are set, locked and loaded. All they have to do is wait for it. They are able to get one quickly off, get traded.
We're really trying to make sure that they're able to move off of site quickly enough. A lot of utility going for the ability to move off of that. Monsi is going to stay kind of close to the spike while the rest of the players holding on off site. And in a 3v3, trying to make sure that you're being unpredictable is going to be impossible. That smoke goes down, but Yanel's going to be able to find the shots first. Tim holding on to that defuse, and the swings just can't come through for Blinn and Zero Marksman. On that even playing field, full weaponry for both sides are going to come out on top. I am interested, considering, as you mentioned, a lot of this push up through mid action has been kind of a constant for Blinn Esports. And it's weird how when they have a one player helping out kind of towards Boba T on the back of B site, that's usually the player who starts to check out like what's happening going through mid. But they've decided they just don't want to even worry about that right now. So instead, we've got this change in Cypher placement where we're putting a tripwire there. If somebody goes through there, cool, we'll know. Otherwise, we're going to have this camera that's going to be able to take a peek into mid so that we don't have to keep dedicating nearly as much attention there as we have been on these previous rounds, which is where we tend to lose some of our defensive power.
Yeah, they are giving up mid and market at the same time. And this, you said it, it's just going to be based on that trip and the camera. A lot of utility has also been used up here by Blinn Esports. They use a Prowler, they use a dark cover. But so far, they have not got rewarded. Instead, it's going to be the aggression of Yanel, and I believe it was Tim as well there to get control of this B main. But in doing so, they gave up this market. The retake is going to be a 4v4, but the weapon disadvantage is on the hands of Blinn. So that is where Zero Marksman can kind of rely on, is just taking the fights and making sure that they keep their weapons in the right hands. Although now the new challenge is going to be having to defuse the spike, which is planted more towards CT. A sandwich is happening, but just one player comes through. Nanner's able to get into the back of the line. Tim goes straight into the smoke, and it's just down left to Nanners. A 2v1 though. Trying to hold for half. Does get one. Doesn't get the half. Instead is trying to look for the elimination, and that's not going to happen. The time has ticked way too far. Spaz able to collect the 3rd point on a Thrifty.
That's a heartbreak one for Nanners. As you mentioned, if we'd have been able to get that half, there might have been a hope, but Spaz played that very well, kind of hung back, made sure that if the half peak was going to be the game plan, that it wasn't going to be able to go very well. And then, of course, the moment that Nanners didn't exactly hold to half, that hurts. You're trying to at least see if you can find the final pick, but you know that it's out of your hands. And Zero Marksman Black do have that round fall. But these matches looking pretty close here between both of these, as that Haunt does go out towards that elbow, trying to make sure that nobody is holding in those sneaky corners.
Wait, Becky, they are already so deep in. Okay, I was going to say there's no way that Zero Marksman. No, but they knew they had to give up the site. We have this operator, quote-unquote, hero weapon here in the hands of Tim, and they are rewarded already. It's going to be a 5-on-4, but this Viper's Pit might as well be an additional obstacle being thrown into the mix. The spike? Okay, the spike is in that Viper's Pit. I was gonna say it's kind of like in the edge, but still covered. Double satchel trying to get themselves onto the site. They're looking for where this Viper is. Viper is in the outer rim. This Viper's Pit is gonna go down, and Okeanos is going to have the perfect. Actually, Okeanos went away from that, but it's okay. Teague got it under control.
Normally,
one dream ends, another begins.
I kind of shame people for leaving a Viper's Pit. But that was probably one of the more clean moments that I've seen as many people as possible kind of pull out of the Viper's Pit, get ready in kind of some of those default areas for the Viper's Pit to fall. And they were all prepared. We were able to quickly take out 2 of those players from Amonsi's side. And on the other side, Teague was laying in wait. Very nicely done from the side of Blinn. And honestly, a relatively good job of playing around the Viper's Pit, but also being okay with letting it fall and the decay that still lands on players for that little bit of time.
Every single time that my teammates leave a Viper's Pit, I yell at them. I'm like, what are you doing? But, you know, yeah, you said it. If you can make sure that you are covering every single angle and just hitting your shots as well, it's wonderful. So far, weapon disadvantage, not a thing to Tim. Tim's instead needs to get blinded to go down, and Muncie is able to collect there. The spike is going to get planted onto the safe site, and that is the second time that we see a more of a quickish hit here for Blindness Esports. They didn't quite commit to all 5, but they did just aggress onto the site, and it's with the knowledge of the economy of your opponents. They knew that they had the better weapons, they threw out some util, and they were able to capitalize on that so far. Nanners in the back line, they are going to come into contact with Muncie, who's very low on health. So
we're maybe not even looking at where Muncie is, though. So this is going to be a little bit of a fun moment here. I would have gone for the knife, but, you know, I respect it either way.
I mean, 5 health, really? You're going to go for the knife? I would be too scared.
I know, 4v1.
Okay, fine, yeah.
My life for the knife. My life for the memes.
My knife for the clips.
I'd think about it at least. Monsi just was like, nope, got it. Simple. Okay, in this level of tournament, I do respect it. And Blinn continuing to respect how they are handling this attacking side. Zero Marksmen were able to find a few there for a moment, and now they're going to play some aggressive defense here when it feels like their backs are up against the wall. Let's see if we can make some moving and shaking happen. But so far, the only people who are shaking are still Zero Marksmen, who are down 3 and starting to shake in their boots.
I do respect that aggression mid, because we are seeing how successful Blinn is at taking up that space and how continuously time after time they do it. This time, Zero Marksman did not get rewarded. This time, Blinn was like, okay, we've conditioned him to think we're gonna have someone mid. Instead, we are going to just wait and see what happens. They are gonna go straight into the hands of Kev, who had the perfect angle, but instead now needs to reposition. The showstopper is out here trying to party, and indeed does connect and finds one. Okeano still aggressing into Boba, while the rest of Blinn get themselves situated onto the site. The teleport from Tim, nobody worry. It stopped.
I was worried. No, I was
it.
like, oh no, are we teleporting right into this rocket? Because for a moment, for a second, I was like, oh no, we have made a grave mistake.
But it's okay. I mean, they remained alive for the time being. They have 30 health in a dream at this moment. A dark cover to zone out market, and only a prowler in the hands of Yinel. It is looking like a safe here. It is.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a difficult place for you to try and maneuver onto, especially going into both a Viper and an Omen. Once again, there's just like so little vision that you can actually work with, and the peeking capability that comes out from that garage area is just a little bit too difficult to make happen. And so I respect. Once again, is it what I would do? Personally, no. But am I worse than these players? Also, yes. So I respect the safe plays. But this is going to prompt this timeout to come through. Zero Marksman Black down 4 rounds that have been strung together in a row from Blinn here. Normally, I feel like we've been seeing Zero Marksman Black take these timeouts when they're on a buy-up, when they have big ultimates to work with. This is very different from what we saw from them on Icebox as far as the timing that they take those timeouts. Okay, cool. We are getting to see that rocket again where I was like, oh no. We just teleported in to watch our teammate fall.
That's feels bad. You're like, we're good. We got it. We can retake together. And then it's like, no. But
no.
One thing that I'm noticing that Blinn Esports is doing time and time again is gathering information on simply one site, or even just getting a pick on one side. And as soon as that pick goes down, like it's like a muscle reaction. It's that memory reaction where it's like, okay, one goes down, we hit the other side, because that means that number disadvantage is on the other side. And it's continuously through that market. I would love to see the Cypher being repositioned back onto the B, and then still having some sort of firepower at mid to help you really connect and stop the aggression. Like Blast was doing great just playing that mid, not so much like peeking and like showing presence, but just having that body in case the aggression does come through. That is where we saw those 2 rounds go in favor of Zero Marksman. Nanners does go back to that B site, but is more just a body to hold that information.
Yeah, Nanner's really holding on to the tripwires and that cyber cage. One of 3 players holding onto a sheriff going into this one, while we have Tim and Yanel with those rifles for the side of Zero Marksman, and really trying to keep those 2 players, and you mentioned at market and mid, and trying to make sure that they have that extra power in those areas. As shots through, gonna do a little bit of damage to Tim there. And once again, it is going to be this mid push, this mid power. Spaz is down, but if everyone from Blinn is able to just slowly move through and take out Tim, maybe it's all going to be for naught.
Okay, Nanners has a really good position. They still have that information that Nanners was there prior, but there's no confirmation. So if Nanners can just hold until the rest of the squad makes their way through, this could be helpful. Okay, did Teague see Nanners? I cannot confirm nor deny. Prowlers, though, are for sure giving the information to Monzi that the retake is happening. Fault line connects, but they have been stopped by that snake bite. Going into the grinder, which is Mike and Monzi are able to collect, and Nanners now is like, guys, we were supposed to retake together. What happened? And Blinn Esports, they just are doing everything correctly. I do have to say Blast's timing was so unfortunate. Blast had the mid position. Blast had the knowledge of, okay, maybe I should stay here, but then quickly rotated as soon as the rest of their teammates were going to A site. So I don't I don't know where that information came from. I would love to hear the comms.
Yeah, I'm also pretty interested. We did see Nanners go ahead and hold on to both tripwires in that last round as well. And I have to believe it's because they're just trying to do as much of a save and just saying, you know what, this is a round that we lose, it's a round that we lose. But a lot of information could have been gained by just a little bit more utility usage.
That was a really good fault line.
That last one. And if you're going to have two players buy up rifles, but then have your Sentinel save all of their utility, it feels like you have two different, half of your team is on a different playbook than the other half of your team.
I mean, someone's not looking at the correct playbook. Spaz got saved by the chinny chin chin. I forget how that goes, but you know what I'm saying. He just got saved.
It was chin.
There you go. Yes. Oh my, Spaz should have been a goner. Rolling Thunder invested. Aggression, none there for Zero Marksman. Instead, it was just to hold them out, zone them out, say don't come into A site. Bit of a jiggle peeking happening for Yanel. But no information gathered just quite yet. Instead, it's going to be the mid-aggression again here. Can they get awarded for just simply being in the vicinity here? Damage done by those paint shells, but instead it's going to be the double peek. Kev gets rewarded, make that 3. Monsi, though, was able to get into the backline, needs to gather themselves and get the spike and go into this 1v3. This is the perfect position to be in if you're Zero Marksman Black.
Yeah, and Tim, able to hear those footsteps, so does have the information that the movement is going over towards this A site. So we're going to see Yanel just kind of hold this spot and just wait for that moment to, Fade said it perfectly. Have a little bit of a peekaboo moment.
Yeah.
Never happens.
Actually, that's Serena that says that, but honestly, every agent should say that if they do some sort of like jump scare moment. I would love that.
My favorite ones that are in the game are Omen.
Oh yeah, Omen's interesting. I love me and Omen, but I feel like some of those lines I'm like, okay.
That's half the best part about this game is just like the characters and their voice lines. Like they're all phenomenal.
Their personalities.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. Zero Marksman Black. They got a point. They're feeling a little bit more confident. Economy-wise, they're kind of balancing out here, and they want to continue to grow that. They got to keep investing. So in order to keep investing, you got to make sure that these rounds go your way. Though, wow, the door gets broken so quickly. Oh no! Tim is just gonna fight in there. Tim's like, I'm blind. I'm going for it. I need to do something for my squad. But Neural Theft gets added to the mix, making it that much harder. A satchel to find safety there. But still, Kev connects with Mike. The bomb, the spike here getting planted. Nanners allows it for the time being. But it's going to be the nightmare to go and find exactly where Nanners is. Nanners stuck in a very hard position. Gets flanked by Okeanos, who's just 5 health and a dream. I believe you can hardly even see how much health is left. So it's down to Yanel Nightmare. If maybe potentially able to connect with 2. Okay, no, that's not going to be invested. 8-3 here.
Last round before the switch.
Yeah, rough one. Tim, to start that one off, did get hit by a lot of utility and did decide to... This is one of those things that I feel like a lot of players, the moment that you get hit by a blind, your first thought is, okay, move somewhere that is safer. But I am always impressed when I see players go, oh, this is like, I'm blinded, but it's a near sight. If I'm able to just like get into a corner that you can't turn and look at fast enough, but still be... kind of take them by surprise. I'm blinded, but I'm also close enough that I'm able to see you, and trying to make that happen is always interesting to me, and I feel like that's what Tim tried to make happen. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, and just like it went for the rest of the squad of Zero Marksman Black, it is not going their way as that rocket does take out Nanners. No more tripwires. The rest of the team can come right onto the site. Okeanos is coming in with vengeance.
All right, we got Showstopper. We got Nightfall. We got Viper's Pit. What's next? Do we have any more ults ready? No, not quite yet. But hey, if we did...
Hey, last round of the half. Let's get them out there.
Yeah. We got to throw into the mix. Oh, they are holding here. It's being held. Pros don't fake. It's going through. Oh, thank you, Monsi. I was about to jump out of my seat if Yanel was able to get that defusal. It was close.
I don't know. I was kind of hoping that was just going to be able to say, Like the moment where you're like, well, I've got nothing to do other than sit on the spike and you just like have your character's head point up and you just spin. I was just ready for that to happen. Just being like,
I could see
I've
it.
got this hope. We'll see.
Well, 9-3 at the half. No one's been talking about the 9-3 curse, but I love to talk about the 9-3
Mark's
curse.
talked about it in the match
Oh,
before.
Really? Okay, well, Mark's, I'm with you on this one. I believe the 9-3 curse happens. It's a thing. And I think Zero Marksman showed a lot of great adaptability. Of course, it's hard when Okeanos is just feeling themselves. I feel like every single time we saw Okeanos double satchel onto site, it was perfect. But I do think that Zero Marksman Black right now are going to adapt. And we are seeing this with this aggressive mid push. One thing that Blinn Esports is doing is not even worrying about this mid, which is something that kind of came to fruition, realization for Zero Marksman way later into the half. So let's see if it's either going to go their way or if Blinn can just play the off angles and be able to continue to collect eliminations.
Yeah, Monty doing a really great job there. Prowler's going to be able to clear out Market, at least some of those corners. This could potentially be a little bit scary if Yunel gets taken down in Market with the bomb in their possession, but it looks like going to be able to be joined up there by Blast. Slowly just trying to make sure that everyone is able to converge here. Prowler is going to give a location away, but Okeanos is going to be able to stay safe still with that smoke coming through as well.
30 seconds left.
Oh, they gotta move. Oh, that's a perfect blind spaz right click. Gets one. Okeanos, like you mentioned, 13 health, no problem. I just hit my shots, and I am able to go. You know, the healthiest of the two is gonna lead Blast to try and gather information, searching, hunting onto CT. Able to collect Okeanos finally. Lear eliminated, but there's still one more Monsi onto CT. 3 players going straight for the spike, and it's gonna be Yunel who finally goes down.
Yeah, Spaz a little bit of a fan of the jumping right click. And it working out at least for 2 in that round. And it's interesting that we're talking a lot about Okeanos kind of feeling themselves, really being able to pull out a lot of these gunfights when Monsi is actually the person with a 16-4 KDA, which is kind of nuts. But it's also interesting to think back to when I was looking at a lot of Zero Marksman Black's matches from yesterday. Across the matches that they played yesterday, the collective KDAs for the team, everyone's kills were between 30 and 35. There was not one player who was like popping off for the side of Zero Marksman Black. They were all in like relatively the same kind of KDA ratio for their 3 matches that they played yesterday. And at the moment I was like, oh, that's like kind of impressive. But now seeing how in this situation when they're falling, they're all falling, it doesn't feel as good. You wish you kind of had one player to rely on or maybe start to pop off. But it's always hard. When everyone's doing well, you're like, oh, everyone's doing well, cool. But yeah, at the moment that everyone starts to fall to Okeanos and this Guardian, it starts to feel a lot worse.
And they have like similar, I mean, maybe we can say that about Blinn Esports as well. It's like you see Spaz, you see Tim, you see Nanners, like they are all doing pretty well. And it kind of talks about team chemistry and how if you guys are in the groove, just kind of how we're seeing Blinn Esports do right now, then you're good. Like they're all doing their part. And that's kind of, it's the vibe of a team, and right now, Blinn Esports, they are feeling every single thing. We had Guardians the second round. They're just going for it. There's no fear in sight at this moment.
Oh, they don't really need to have fear. When you have as dominant of a round number 1 and then you move on to the defensive side, I feel like a lot of the time, especially if like one of the people you have doing really well is somebody like this Viper, like you just get to play around a lot of that and kind of sit back and be like, okay, we're just going to see, like, if you come into our crossfire, we're going to take you out. We're going to gather the information that we can. Like, the ball isn't really in your court. You're just saying, okay, see if you can get through my defense And if you can't, you can't. And I'm going to win this game. And Blinn is kind of happy to just sit back and see what Zero Marksman try to put onto their side of the board.
Well, I do like this aggressive mid push. They've tried it previous times. The only difference was that this time Okeanos wasn't staring at them with a Guardian in hand. So they were able to be a little bit more aggressive, but they were quickly shut down after the rotation. And I mean, we are down to match point here. Blinn Esports, they're showing us why the collegiate scene is going into this open qualifier and doing really, really well.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised. We do have quite a few teams that are collegiate teams. It is really cool to see them doing well, because I think it is kind of a realm where we're going to start to see esports really thrive. Like, I've already been a part of a lot of like high school esports, and I think it's something that a lot of people are really interested in. So it's cool to see them doing well, when for so long a lot of the esports story has been trying to put as many people from as far apart together as possible. There's a lot of camaraderie to be had in a collegiate scene as well. So it's cool to see a team like Blinn kind of showing up and doing this well. And we highlighted Zero Marksman Black doing some very aggressive plays in that last round. And the aggressiveness was good, literally up until it wasn't. The moment that we continued to aggress into a very open area where you peeked into 3 people, like, that's when it all started to fall apart. And so it seems like Zero Marksman Black, just when they turned their ego dial up, they maybe turned it up a little bit too high. And we just need to be a little bit more precise with it, as we see yet another beautiful rocket find its target for Okeanos.
Oh my. Well, yep. I mean, you said it pretty well. It's the aggression met aggression for Blinn Esports that kind of came through. We saw the showstopper versus a showstopper, and Okeanos was like, I got this, easy peasy, going in, and it just came down to just one single player, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see, number one, these replays. Look at this, Nanners doing their part. Every single member of Blind Esports was a shining star for me. What about you, Peggy?
Yeah, I think especially, like, this was something that I was highlighting a lot in the previous map as well, so it's cool to see Monsi, like, really also pop off on this map. I was seeing a lot of really great play on the Harbor, previously on Icebox, and then seeing an extremely beautiful set of plays on the Viper this time around. It's just really cool when you see somebody, you're like, I can't tell if this is like a player diff, I can't tell if this is like an agent diff, like what exactly is happening here, and then it continued to push over onto a completely different agent, a completely different map, and be like, oh, you just like came very prepared, and you're maybe like feeling yourself on your aim during the day. And I think that Monsi was a player that I think did phenomenally well on both of those maps for the team of Blinn Esports, and somebody that I would just kind of like to highlight. So now taking a peek at these stats. It's cool to see that both teams actually had 8 picks, but I think it does harken back to what QNoob was saying earlier when we were talking about how, especially when we saw Zero Marksman on the defensive side, a lot of the time they were being able to pick off one player, but then it just meant that Blinn was immediately rushing to the other site where they knew that there wasn't an agent disadvantage for them to be had. And I think that there's something really cool about the fact that you could be equal in first kills, and that isn't meaning everything, because so often in Valorant that is the case.
Yeah, we focus a little bit more on that. But I mean, to go off of that, it's like if your team is shining, kind of how we are seeing that Blinn Esports did, everyone was doing their part. Everyone was getting the eliminations. Everyone was kind of moving along, which does kind of matter. I mean, specifically here in a game where it's like whoever can get the most rounds and whoever can get the number advantage in their part is going to be victorious. And so shout out there. I mean, that was, I could say it looked like a race diff. We did see Okeanos be on top and just like take up that space. And that does mean that Blinn Esports is going to be moving forward on to the next series. And we actually have another series, but we need a break. I know you guys do too. So why don't you grab some snacks, grab some water, and after this, we will tell you what is the next matchup.
They say in life, there are no guarantees. They say a lot of stuff like that. Slow it down. Play it safe. Hedge your bets. So what? You gonna listen to that? You gonna stop because they can't guarantee you'll pull this off? No guarantee you'll win? No guarantee everything's gonna be fine? In life, you make your own guarantees. Nobody else will light your way. Start your own fire and keep it burning. And we guarantee you'll have one hell of a lifetime.